Some names in the automotive world carry a legacy. They stand for innovation, capability, and an unmistakable presence. When it comes to luxury SUVs, one name stands above the rest: the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. In 1963, the original Wagoneer came out decades ahead of its time. It proved to have luxury. It dared to battle luxury sedans with off-road capability and four-wheel drive. So where are we going with this? Let's talk about the Grand Wagoneer and Wagoneer Nameplate, a luxury SUV from the 1960s. Many may not know that this vehicle nameplate has been on a lot of different Jeep vehicles over the past few decades. Did you know the Grand Wagoneer was even on the ZJ platform? Did you know the Wagoneer was on the XJ Love Cherokee platform? And now we have a Wagoneer S on the electric platform? Needless to say, I personally think there's a lot of confusion when it comes to this nameplate. So let's talk a little bit about what is a Grand Wagoneer? What is a Wagoneer? What is a Wagoneer L? What is a Wagoneer S? So let's take it a little deeper. The Grand Wagoneer, 1984. Jeep releases arguably the first luxury SUV ever. It was rugged, yet refined, with the signature wood grain exterior and interior, leather seats, and features that were way ahead of its time. That nameplate ran until 1991 with almost an unchanged body. That vintage body we love today. But did you know the Wagoneer nameplate moved over into the XJ as well? From 1983 to 1990, the Wagoneer was available in two trim levels: the Wagoneer and the Wagoneer Limited, and this was found on what we know as the Cherokee or XJ chassis. Fast forward to 1993, the first version of the Grand Cherokee ZJ, but it wasn't called the Grand Cherokee for 1993, it was called the Grand Wagoneer. In 1994, that changed to the Grand Cherokee Limited that we know today. So my understanding, pretty much from 1993 until 2022, the Grand Wagoneer nameplate was sleeping. But it's back, and I think it's even more confusing than it's ever been. Let's break down the nameplates. You've got Wagoneer, you've got a Grand Wagoneer, you've got a Wagoneer L, and you have a Grand Wagoneer L, and you have a Wagoneer S. You've got 5 different vehicles that 4 of the 5 are very, very similar, and the one is an outlier. What is the difference between a Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer? What does all of this mean if you're looking for a Grand Wagoneer or a Wagoneer Jeep vehicle? So we've got a 2025 Jeep Wagoneer lineup. It comes in a Wagoneer, a Series 2, a Carbide, and a Series 3. Now the real difference between this lineup is going to be what the standard features are in this vehicle. So some say, well, the Grand Wagoneer is bigger. It's not. So let's check out the Grand Wagoneer lineup. You've got a Grand Wagoneer, you've got the Grand Wagoneer Obsidian, you've got a Series 3 and a Series 3 Obsidian. So what's the difference between a Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer? Well, it's not size. Well, what is it? Well, the Grand Wagoneer and Wagoneer are basically going to be how they're trimmed out. Keep in mind, if you're looking at a Wagoneer Series 3 versus a base Grand Wagoneer, could be pretty close in options. So it depends. Do you want those power running boards? Do you want those upgraded wheels? Do you want the massaging seats? What options do you want? That is going to be the difference between a Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer. Think of it as some are more base than others. When it comes to size, they are identical. So what's the difference between a Wagoneer and a Wagoneer L? Or a Grand Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer L? I'm going to tell you exactly what the difference is. 12 inches. That's it. So if you look at this slide, we've got a Grand Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer L. They are exactly the same. Assuming you get them in the same trim level, they are exactly the same. Think of this as Tahoe versus Suburban. If you look at the back window of this vehicle, you'll see the Wagoneer L is longer. L longer. So the difference between a Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer is how they are trimmed out. Grand Wagoneer is not longer. What makes it longer is L. So whether you're looking at a Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer, they're the same size. Grand Wagoneer has more options. A Wagoneer versus Wagoneer L, the L is longer. When Jeep introduced the Grand Wagoneer and the Wagoneer platform in 2022, it was not supposed to be branded Jeep. The goal was to brand this as the premium luxury line of Jeep, of Stellantis. And if you notice, the Grand Wagoneer had no Jeep logo on it. It said Jeep nowhere on it. If you could find really hard, you could look in some of the headlights and see it would say Jeep parts or it would say Jeep somewhere. But there was no Jeep logo at all. And the whole idea here was, let's make this the grand Wagoneer. Let's make this premium. Let's make this the Genesis of Hyundai. Let's make this the premium line. Well, went back and forth, and I think that they kind of reeled themselves in at the end of the day. Now it's back to a Jeep Wagoneer, and they do give it the Jeep branding, and they've kind of changed some things. Now that we've talked about the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer and the L versus the standard, and the Grand Wagoneer doesn't mean it's bigger, let's throw something else a little more confusing in. What is a Wagoneer S? Well, a Wagoneer S is an all-electric mid-size SUV, actually a little smaller than a Grand Cherokee. It's the Wagoneer S. Now, Jeep actually on their social pages, before this vehicle was launched, asked you all, what would you like this vehicle to be named? And there was some great feedback on there. And well, Wagoneer S was the internal name for Jeep for the project. It was Project Wagoneer S. Jeep asked everybody, what do you think we should name this? Tons of great options. And what did they name it? The Wagoneer S. Now, why do I think there's a problem with this? Well, it's confusing. People are already confused by Wagoneer versus Grand Wagoneer versus Wagoneer L. Perfect example. I was talking to my mom the other day. I said, hey, you should check out the Wagoneer S. You would love it. It is beautiful, great size. And she's like, it's way too big for me. I don't have any need for a Wagoneer. I said, no, it's the Wagoneer S. And she's like, oh, is that the long one? I said, no, that's the Wagoneer L. And she's like, well, what's the Wagoneer S? I don't blame her. If you don't follow this, you don't know. So I explained to her, Wagoneer S is the all-electric 4xe version. Let's go there for a second. I get it 4xe instead of 4x4, right? Meaning four-wheel drive, 4xe, 4x electric. Fine, I love it. But I'm curious, will that 4xe carry all through the electric? Because we've been trained 4xe means hybrid. Maybe that was never the goal, but that's another side conversation. I'm surprised the 4xe badge landed on the all-electric for that reason. So anyway, the Wagoneer S now is this full electric, beautiful vehicle, but should it share the Wagoneer nameplate just for sheer confusion? Honestly, part of me feels like the Wagoneer S should have been under a Chrysler nameplate. It would have doubled Chrysler's portfolio if they put the Wagoneer S under it. If you followed the Chrysler Airflow was a great concept, very almost similar to the Wagoneer S in my opinion. Kind of surprised they didn't put this Wagoneer S under Chrysler's portfolio. It's not trail rated. Someone really into Jeep world, they're not looking for a Wagoneer S. I'm not saying it doesn't really necessarily belong. It can. I think it would have fit really nicely under Chrysler's portfolio. At any rate, the Wagoneer S, it lives here in Jeep land, but it is tough to understand what these Wagoneer nameplates all come to be. So let us know. What are your thoughts on the Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer, Wagoneer S, Wagoneer L? Did you understand the nomenclature behind this lineup of the premium Jeep product? Or was this confusing to you? Or hopefully we've made it clear now. Comment below. What are your thoughts? Should the Wagoneer S have been under Jeep's name? Should have been under Chrysler's name? It's not trail rated, which is okay, because there are plenty of other Jeeps that are not trail rated. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Leave a comment below. And as always, like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next video.